There comes a moment in every man's life when pain no longer feels like punishment, it feels like awakening. You start to realize that all the chasing, all the explaining, all the desperate attempts to be understood, were only distractions pulling you away from yourself. You begin to see that not everyone deserves access to your energy. You stop looking for closure in conversations that only reopen wounds. You stop reaching out to people who once made you question your worth. Instead, you sit with yourself, quietly, learning to find comfort in your own company. It's strange at first, the silence feels heavy, almost unbearable. But as days pass, it starts to sound like peace. You start to breathe differently. You begin to feel your own power returning, the power you gave away every time you tried to prove your value to someone who couldn't see it. The noise fades. The drama fades. What remains is you, raw, unfiltered, aware. You start noticing who drains you and who nourishes you. You realize not every connection is meant to be healed, not every apology is worth waiting for. Some endings are protection in disguise. You stop taking rejection personally, you start seeing it as redirection. What once broke you now builds you. The same silence that used to hurt now becomes your sanctuary. You no longer chase energy, you attract it. You no longer beg for peace, you embody it. You no longer explain yourself, your presence speaks for you. And in that calm, detached awareness, you awaken. Not into someone new, but into the person you were always meant to be, grounded, patient, and finally free. Real feminine energy isn't something you can chase, buy, or control. It's a presence, a frequency, something that can only be felt when your own energy is calm enough to recognize it. It doesn't need to announce itself, because it already speaks through peace. She doesn't fight to be seen, she simply exists softly, gracefully, and with a strength that doesn't shout. Real feminine energy doesn't come to compete or to dominate, it comes to connect, to heal, to nurture. It brings a kind of warmth that makes a man slow down, breathe deeper, and remember what stillness feels like. She doesn't seek validation through attention, likes, or reactions. Her validation comes from within, from knowing who she is, from trusting her intuition, from being anchored in her emotions instead of controlled by them. She doesn't need chaos to feel alive, because her calm is her power. She moves with intention. Her silence speaks louder than arguments. Her softness isn't weakness, it's emotional intelligence wrapped in grace. When you encounter that kind of energy, you feel it before you understand it. It's the kind of peace that makes you question why you ever settled for noise. Her feminine energy doesn't demand that you prove your worth, it invites you to rise into it. It calls for balance, for honesty, for emotional depth. She doesn't chase love, she attracts it by being aligned with herself. Her aura doesn't beg to be chosen, it teaches you what real connection feels like, calm, safe, and effortless. And once you've experienced that kind of energy, everything loud, unstable, and uncertain starts to lose its appeal. Because real feminine energy isn't fire that burns you, it's light that guides you home. True masculine power isn't about dominance, control, or being louder than others. It's about presence, that quiet, grounded energy that doesn't need to prove itself. It's the strength that speaks without words, that holds firm in chaos, that stays calm when everything around is falling apart. A man rooted in his masculine energy doesn't chase recognition, he earns respect through his discipline, his focus, and his ability to remain centered. He understands that purpose is his compass, and silence is his weapon. When he moves with intention. Every step, every choice, carries meaning. This kind of power can't be faked, because it's built in solitude, in the moments when no one's watching, when you're facing yourself, fighting your weaknesses, confronting your fears. It's in those quiet hours that a man sharpens his mind, steadies his emotions, and aligns his actions with his values. He doesn't run from responsibility, he carries it with quiet pride. He doesn't react to everything, he observes, then acts when it matters. The world tries to confuse men into thinking masculinity is noise, ego, and aggression. But real strength is restraint. Real confidence is calm. Real leadership is protection, not control. A masculine man isn't threatened by emotion, he knows how to hold space for it without losing himself in it. His peace is his power, his patience his protection. And when he walks into a room, you can feel it, not because he demands attention, but because he doesn't need it. His presence alone shifts the energy. That's the essence of the masculine: still water with depth, silent fire with purpose, and the kind of strength that never has to shout to be felt.
Pain is the greatest teacher a man will ever meet.
It doesn't come to destroy him, it comes to strip away the illusions that kept him blind. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss, they all carve wisdom into his soul.
Pain humbles you. It slows you down. It forces you to look at yourself in ways comfort never could.
You start to see how much of your suffering was caused by ignoring your intuition, by forcing what was never meant for you, by holding on to things long after they stopped serving you. At first, you resist it. You fight the ache, you drown it with distractions, you convince yourself you've moved on. But pain is patient, it waits until you're quiet enough to hear what it's trying to say.
It teaches you that strength isn't about pretending you're unbothered. Real strength is sitting with the discomfort until you understand it. It's letting it refine you, not define you.
Through pain, you learn boundaries.
You learn what you can't tolerate anymore.
You learn that not everyone deserves your loyalty just because you gave it freely once.
Pain shows you who's genuine and who only showed up when it benefited them.
It shows you how easily peace can be lost when you give it to the wrong people. And then, slowly, the storm clears.
The lessons remain. You realize you're not the same person anymore, you've become more deliberate, more guarded, more aware.
You no longer seek to avoid pain, you respect it for the growth it brings.
It's no longer your enemy, it's your compass.
Every scar becomes proof that you survived what was meant to break you and became wiser because of it. A woman's energy will test a man, not out of cruelty, but out of nature. She needs to feel that the man beside her is grounded, that his emotions aren't swayed by every storm. She will challenge his patience, question his presence, and stir his peace, not to destroy him, but to see if he can remain calm in the chaos. Her tests are rarely direct, they come in moments of emotion, silence, or doubt. She wants to know if your strength is real or just performance. She wants to feel your stillness when she loses hers. If you react to every shift in her mood, if her emotions drag you out of balance, you fail the test. Because what she's truly seeking is safety, the kind that comes from your emotional stability. A woman will not trust a man who cannot control himself. She may be fire, but she's searching for water, not more flames. Your power isn't in matching her energy, it's in holding yours. It's in being the calm presence that grounds her when everything feels uncertain. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means understanding that leadership in love isn't about control, it's about guidance. When you remain composed, you remind her of her own strength. When you stand firm in silence, she learns she can soften again. The test isn't about dominance, it's about emotional harmony. The feminine surrenders not to control, but to consistency. And once she feels your steadiness, the storms stop. That's when connection deepens. That's when trust is built, not through words, but through your energy. Because every woman may test, but only the grounded man passes, not by force, but by peace. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means not caring, not feeling, or becoming cold. But real detachment isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's the ability to feel deeply and still choose peace over reaction. It's standing in the middle of chaos and not letting it pull you out of alignment. Detachment is loving without clinging, giving without expecting, and walking away when something starts costing your inner balance. It's strength disguised as silence. You learn detachment through experience, through holding on too long, through giving your energy to people who never valued it, through losing yourself while trying to please others. Eventually, you reach a point where you realize peace is worth more than attention, and your energy is too sacred to waste on things that drain you. Detachment doesn't make you heartless, it makes you wise. It teaches you that not every battle deserves your presence and not every connection deserves your effort. When you detach, you stop chasing closure, because you understand that some people will never give you the truth you deserve. You stop trying to control outcomes, because you trust that what's meant for you won't require you to lose yourself to keep it. You stop reacting to everything, because your silence becomes your statement. And in that stillness, you find freedom. The world no longer dictates your emotions, you do. That's when you become powerful, because you're no longer ruled by attachment, expectation, or fear. You're guided by clarity, calmness, and choice. Detachment isn't running away from life, it's walking through it untouched by its noise. It's not coldness, it's control. The kind of control that brings peace, not pride. When you stop reacting to everything, life begins to move differently. The same things that used to disturb your peace no longer have the same power. You begin to notice how much energy you used to waste on trying to be understood, trying to fix people, or trying to prove your point. The moment you stop reacting, you start reclaiming that energy, and something inside you shifts. You realize that your silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Your calmness becomes your boundary. The things that once triggered you now teach you. You start responding from wisdom instead of impulse. People around you feel it too. They sense your change, even if they can't explain it. Your presence becomes heavier, more grounded, more respected. You no longer argue with ignorance, because you've learned that peace is more powerful than proving you're right. You no longer chase validation, because your worth is no longer dependent on who notices it. You move differently, slower, sharper, and more deliberate. You become an observer of life, not a prisoner of reaction. The more silent you become, the louder your energy speaks. Those who once tried to provoke you lose their control over you. Their power fades, because your peace is no longer negotiable. You start choosing where to place your attention, who deserves your time, and what truly deserves your words. And in that shift, everything begins to align: people, opportunities, timing. The universe starts matching your frequency. That's the power of stillness. When you master your reactions, you master your reality. You stop being moved by everything external and start moving from something eternal, the unshakable calm within. When you reach the stage of emotional mastery, everything about you changes: your pace, your tone, your choices. You no longer move from impulse, you move from intention. You felt the chaos of losing yourself in people, in feelings, in moments you couldn't control. Now, you've learned to move differently. You love with awareness, not attachment. You care deeply, but you no longer beg to be understood. You give freely, but you don't give away your peace. Emotional mastery isn't about shutting down your heart, it's about training it to stay open without breaking every time. You start seeing emotions as signals, not commands. Anger becomes a teacher, not a weapon. Sadness becomes reflection, not defeat. You no longer let your feelings dictate your actions, you observe them, you listen, then you choose your response. That's power. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that controls your inner world. You realize that calmness is a form of intelligence, the ability to stay soft in a hard world, to stay kind when others project pain. And through that balance, you gain a new kind of freedom. You stop trying to fix others and focus on mastering yourself. You stop chasing temporary highs because you've built inner stability. You stop reacting to negativity because peace has become your natural state. People start wondering how nothing seems to shake you anymore, but the truth is, you've simply learned what's worth your energy and what isn't. Emotional mastery is discipline of the heart. It's living with passion, but guided by peace. It's knowing that your emotions are powerful servants but dangerous masters, and you've chosen to rule them, not be ruled by them. When a man truly learns detachment, he becomes a different kind of presence in the world. Not loud, not aggressive, but deeply powerful in his calm. He's no longer at war with himself or with others. He doesn't chase validation or beg to be understood, because he's finally realized that peace is the greatest form of success. He moves through life with quiet confidence, knowing that everything meant for him will align, not because he forces it, but because he no longer resists what isn't his. The man who once needed attention now values solitude. The one who used to argue now chooses silence. What used to trigger him now teaches him. This version of him is dangerous in the best way, not because he seeks to harm, but because he can no longer be controlled. His emotions serve him instead of sabotage him. His words carry weight because he only speaks with purpose. He doesn't rush, he moves with rhythm. He doesn't demand, he attracts. His peace becomes his power, and his presence becomes his message. People feel it when he enters a room. His energy commands respect without asking for it.
His silence isn't distance, it's depth.
He's not detached from love, he simply loves from awareness, not need.
He can walk away from anything that costs his peace and never look back.
This is evolution, the shift from reaction to response, from noise to stillness, from boy to man. The old version of him would have fought for attention, the new one radiates peace effortlessly.
Detachment didn't make him emotionless, it made him unstoppable.
Because once a man learns to master his silence, no chaos can touch his soul again.